Hello everyone, Miko here, and yes, I'm back! I'm back in America. Finally. That's the energy I had months ago because, this is not being taped after I got back from America. This is, in a matter of fact, being filmed on the 4th or 5th of September or so. I took a while with recording these things and editing them and getting them ready for YouTube, but finally, I got them all done. The diving videos, the vlogs, they're done. Well, after I get this edited for the last piece of the vlog, then it will be done. So I got one more step to go. But yes, I wanted to do this just to emphasize, talk about the trip and everything that happened. And yes, while I was gone, I missed everything. I missed my bed, I missed my mom's cooking, I missed my mom herself, I missed my dogs, I missed this guy especially. It was a long time spent away from you. But obviously I introduced him in another part of the video, talking about the boobies of Socorro. That's what I named that clip to add in to the video. Socorro's boobies, so just as a little nice, just as an information thing. Well, I'll keep him here so he's visible too, so. But as for the actual trip, the trip to Socorro, it was amazing. It was so beautiful, and it's the best scuba diving trip I've ever had in my life. And I gotta say, still thinking back on the trip, there's nothing that compares to the feeling of that first manta ray when it flew over my head, and I just stopped focusing on my camera for a second. I didn't know if I was going to get any good footage, but I didn't entirely care because, that's something I wanted to feel for so long. To see something that was 3 times my size just swim by me, and it just went right over my head. It was such a legendary feeling, and it's something that's only seeing something bigger or something that I really love more than that, it's a feeling I'm not going to feel again until that happens. And of course, with the dive, I swam with so many sharks. There were tons of them everywhere. Every single dive you would see a shark. At least one. I only saw 2 on the first dive, but for the rest of the dives, I just saw an absolute ton of them. So much so that I saw so many sharks on this trip, I got bored seeing sharks. I was bored seeing sharks just a few feet away from me. I got to the point where I didn't care about them. I didn't pay them too much attention at all. There were some Galapagos and silky sharks that were swimming just a few feet away from me, and I was like, oh, I haven't seen you for the 10th time today on this dive. Think back, if that was me younger, I would be out of the water. I wouldn't even be there. I was so scared of sharks, but to go from being scared of them to just ignoring them as they swim by me, But of course, there was one shark that it was impossible to take your eyes off from, no matter how many times you see it. Of course, you know what I'm talking about. The whale shark. That was awesome as well. That gave off pretty much the exact same feeling as the first manta ray I saw. Just seeing it pass by, and one of its pectoral fins, I'm pretty sure, went under me. That's how close I was to it. Like, the trip in general, it was just amazing. And that last, with the whale shark, we saw that at Rocapartia, and I believe I included that in the title of the video. So we spent the most time at Rocapartia. We spent 2 days there and 3 dives for each day. I went on every single dive that we had. Some people skipped out on some dives at certain sites, but I did every single dive we ever did. So I never skipped out on a dive. But I was thinking of skipping out some dives on Rocapartia because they say that there was supposed to be quite a few things there, and pretty much anything that can swim in the Pacific Ocean could potentially swim past Rocapartia, because that's a popular cleaning station for marine life. But first couple dives were interesting for it. You see the things you haven't seen before and see the creatures that live there, but then after the next few dives it starts to get boring, and I was like, this place is pretty freaking lame. This place has nothing interesting. I don't care about this place. The last dive, that's when we saw the whale shark. The very last dive at Rocapartia, and it showed up. And seeing the black mantas at like the very end of the dive, because that was like the last area we dove in, and obviously the bottlenose dolphins, they were cool to dive along with. They were cute and fun to swim with. But if the trip had ended there, then there wouldn't be too much need for me to continue talking, or indeed make this at all, because obviously the aftermath comes next. You know what happened. If you've been following this vlog series, the dive vlogs and the previous vlogs before this one, you know what happened. Got back to Los Cabos, went to get on the plane, but I tested positive for COVID. And I believed it, because on Wednesday we were on a rough seas back home, and I chalked it up to just seasickness. But when we were in port, when I woke up, we were in port, and I still felt bad. And I recalled that Tuesday, that's when the symptoms actually started to really form. They weren't so aggressive, but I could feel that something wasn't entirely right with me. But obviously I tested positive for COVID, so I had to stay in Mexico. And I realized that I've left quite a few details out from the previous vlogs I've made. I only just got done editing like the rest of the vlogs, so I know I hadn't mentioned it before, but I'll explain it in more detail now. So, whenever we found out that I had COVID, we had to wait for someone to find us a place to stay, because even though they help people figure out if they have COVID and if they're safe to fly, they don't help you find a place to stay and quarantine, which you would think that would be something included, because you can't just make you stay somewhere, like find a random place or just stay on the streets all day. Because if you don't have a hotel, you'd have to know someone in Mexico to stay somewhere, or just make a friend and hope they're a really nice person and will not do anything shady to you. It took 2 hours in the airport for them to find us a hotel. We waited 2 hours in the airport just to find a place for us to stay. And because my dad wanted to try and cheat the system and try and get back home sooner, he had me schedule another COVID test in the medical center of the hotel. That's why in the first video of me quarantined in Mexico, I say that I got tested twice. So the first one was at the airport, but the second one we did to see if I really had COVID. But my dad, he tried to make me cheat the test. So before I went down to take the test, he made me take a washcloth, put some soap on it, and stick it up my nose as far as I could. And I didn't feel good about doing that. Like, I was like, if I really do have COVID, I don't want to risk spreading it to other people, but I gave it a shot, but obviously it didn't work, because I wouldn't have made that vlog. So then, from that point, I was just stuck in a room in Los Cabos for about 11 days. Nearly 2 weeks, just in that one room. And then, as you could probably tell from the video, that our plan to go to Tijuana, cross the border, go to San Diego, and fly home from there, it was a success. I was hoping it would be. So on the way to the airport to fly to Tijuana, we knew we had to take that questionnaire or do something about it. Where we thought, at least. Keep that in mind. We thought we had to. But on the way, our taxi driver was talking to us about it, and he said if we take that questionnaire again, to lie. Yeah, lie on the questionnaire and see if we get away with it. Yeah, lie to the Mexican government. That's something I want to do. But it seemed like my dad was thinking about it. He was thinking about doing that. And I was like, no, please, no. So, I'm not gonna lie, I put in my earbuds and just said a little prayer for us to get us home safely no matter what happens. Turns out when we got to the airport, they didn't entirely care. Like, flying in Mexico, it's not a trouble at all. They just take your temperature and then you're like, okay, you're good. Let's get on the plane and fly. And that was it. No questionnaire, no tests, just check your temp, you're okay, on the plane. And no arguments there. We got to Tijuana, got to San Diego, flew home back to America. Well, it's like San Diego doesn't count as America. It does. And I'm just recalling now the way it felt whenever I got back home. Like, after spending 11 days in a room all to myself and seeing the same scenery every single day, to go back to the green trees that are around my house and the cool breezes and everything, it felt weird. Like, I felt out of place. Like, what I was feeling was new. What I was looking at was new. I'd never been away from my house so long, and I guess it just had something to do with me being put in a room for so long, and I wouldn't have felt that way. I guarantee you I wouldn't have felt that way if I just came home from the trip whenever we went to the airport for the first time. But because I spent so much time away, it felt so weird. That was definitely quite the experience. Something I never thought would happen, but it happened. And that was just crazy. The whole thing, crazy. But with all of it said and done, I know that I've said, like, with everything that happened, that I would still, if I knew that that was going to happen, if I were to do it again, that I would have done it again. And I still would have, because that trip, it was genuinely amazing. Like, that's something I wanted to do for a long time. And that trip, at least the diving part, it could have gone better in some aspects, but I didn't have, like, really a problem with it at all. There were no complaints about the dives whatsoever. I mean, I know I said before, like, the dives at Roca Martina were lame because I didn't see too much that was unique, or the manta rays, until, like, the very last dive with the whale shark. But even if it was some lame dives, I still saw incredible things. And even though I got bored of seeing the sharks, didn't mean I didn't like seeing them. I love seeing them. They were incredible, and just to swim with them, it was cool. And even the fact that I got bored, like, to get bored with diving with sharks, that just means you dive with a lot of them there. A lot. So, yeah, that has been the craziest trip I have ever had in my entire life. At the same time, the most amazing one I've ever had. And I wouldn't trade it for any other trip in the world. Also, when Race Diving chooses to go back to Socorro, whenever they do, I'm back in. I'm gonna be ready, and I will be back. Or even schedule it on my own, because one thing I wanted to see that we didn't get to see, humpback whales. I want to see one there. One of the dive masters, Rodrigo, he was our dive master. He said there's a certain time of the year that's good to see them. So, think of, like, June or December or something. Maybe December is what he said. But whatever it was, I want to go there to see one of those humpbacks. That would be amazing. And hopefully I'd hear some of their calls and their songs. Like, that would be amazing. But I am very happy with the things I saw. Like, especially the whale shark. You cannot say you had a bad dive if you saw a whale shark. You're not allowed to say you had a bad dive if you saw one of them. Even if a shark bit your leg off afterwards, you can't say it was a bad dive. You saw a whale shark. Bad dive? No, it wasn't that bad. Okay, maybe a little bad, but not entirely bad. Just matter of perspective, matter of opinion, all that good stuff. But yeah, that's been my trip to Socorro. I will stop blabbing on so I can get to editing this and finally start to get this stuff posted onto YouTube. So, with everything that happened at this point months ago, but still, I remember them so well. And one thing I oddly remember is the parts in the video where I mentioned that I didn't know exactly what was going to happen to me in the future. I still kind of remember those moments of just being there, sitting in front of the camera and saying that, but to be in the future now, that's very, very much better. So if you enjoyed all the videos of this trip, the diving, the gaming, and the vlogs, everything, if you enjoyed them all, please leave a like and a comment down below. Subscribe to the channels if you're new around here, and be sure to hit that notification bell to get updates on all the videos. Be sure to stay connected with my other 2 channels, as I'll have plenty of stuff to edit and upload to YouTube now that this is finally done. And until then, I'll see you guys later.